I'm so much more than just my resume. LOL! Come on! We both know that all these recruitment platforms are only designed for the companies to get what they want. They don't care about candidates like us. Not all, buddy. Have you heard of TAG?
Karan Roy, data scientist. Tag score 96%. Interesting.
That's me. And thanks to TAG, now she knows all about my functional, behavioral, technical, and all other relevant skills. TAG indeed is a game changer for me. When I signed up for it, it created this structured, validated, and enriched profile mapped across my numerous skills, knowledge base, and work experience, and created a score. My TAG score. The score and profiling help me present my best professional version to any employer. They can easily find what they need, and if I'm the right fit, my profile shows up instantly. This way, TAG not only helps candidates like me land their dream jobs, but also figure out where they stand amongst their peers and also identify the areas they need to work on.
Wow, this is just the kind of candidate I need. I like how detailed his profile is. Should I even interview this guy?
See, this is how TAG is bringing clarity, communication, and dignity back for us candidates. It also gives me an access to a community of peers, career circles, thousands of jobs, and marquee employers like her to further aid my career growth. Are you kidding me? Did you just get hired within minutes?
Good afternoon, friends. Just a audience check. Am I audible to everyone? All right, wonderful. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, the 14th session of our Career Circle Live. My name is Vishal Bhardwaj. I'm going to be the host for today's session. Just to give the context for all the ones who are joining this session for the first time, Career Circle Live is the exclusive community session where we actually bring the talent communities, talent peers, the talent professionals, and the other knowledgeable leaders on the same platform to come together, discuss opportunities, discuss the connects and the questions that people may have, and finally take as much information as we can from this dialogue. With that, I also want to tell you that what will happen in the next 45 to 50 minutes, we want to make this a very interactive discussion session. Unlike any other forum where you see that usually questions being asked, the responses will be given. I think this time we really want to represent you as our audience. So before this session, we got a lot of questions from many people on the ground, and we'll try and calibrate all those questions with our guest speaker today, and we'll try and resolve all the queries that you may have down the line. Without having more ado, I also want to welcome Shillpa Chabria, who is our guest speaker today. Shillpa needs no introduction. She is a very renowned HR leader working with thyssenkrupp. Shillpa, thank you for joining us. I can take about an hour to explain and possibly introduce you, but I know I will not do the justice. Why don't you please help us to introduce yourself to the entire group?
Thank you so much again for having me, Vishal. I hope I'm audible to everybody as well.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. All right. So yes, I take care of HR, OSH, administration, and CSR for thyssenkrupp in Industries India. Close to about 2.5 years now with the organization, but nearly 2 decades of work experience. I have, in my HR stint, supported close to 3 regions, across the world. 4 industry types that I have worked with, including the heavy engineering industry that I'm currently with. There are 5 values that really matter to me is integrity, trust, excellence, respect, humility, and perseverance and hard work. There are 6 wonderful bosses who have nurtured me as a leader. And there are 7 diverse global organizations that I have really worked with. And now I'm counting on infinite opportunities to be associated in the rest of the life. So that's a little about me.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. And for the audience, sorry, as you know, the objective and the theme of today's session is engineering the future and the opportunities that we have within thyssenkrupp. I can assure you that I think with Shilpa being there, we couldn't have asked for more. I think all that information for all the engineering aspirants that we're looking forward to, we'll try and get all those responses in terms of queries that people have in their mind right now. With that, I also want to take that moment to make our audience understand what is thyssenkrupp all about in a very small snippet. So team at the back, can you please display the video? Thank you, team at the back. So Shilpa, I'm sure audience will know something about thyssenkrupp, but I still request if you can give a light to something as to what this company. I know everything. I just want to ensure people at the ground they also know the company that they're looking forward to now. And I'm sure there are many aspirants who actually want to know it from you that what more beyond what we have in socials.
Thank you so much, Vishal. So globally, we are a large industrial organization, across various sectors into mining, steel, industrial solutions, hydrogen, which is the newest of all. Um, TKII specifically is in the industrial solutions domain, which I'm representing. And here we're basically an EPC organization, which means to say that we are building the future of India. And when I say that, the industry that we operate, example, cement, mining, sugar, we set up these large industrial plants and solutions which are going to be sustainable, more reliable, and extremely technology backed. So anyone who knows German engineering will vouch for it that everything is precision for us. So that's something that ThyssenKrupp is all about. In a very small brief, if I can explain.
Wonderful. And I'm sure many audience would also agree that even during that early part of my career, Shilpa, nothing in that way. I always wanted to work with a German company first. That's how they teach you to be the perfectionist in all their operations. I always hold a very high regard of people who actually come with an experience with German organization. And I can echo that people at the back, who are listening to this audio and the video, I'm sure they too replicate the same understanding. With that, I also want to pass on the message to all our audience that, as I mentioned, this is going to be a fully interactive session. It is not going to be just the kind of monologue where we also request you to equally participate in the discussion. Yes, we do have some of the questions came in from your side where you need support and responses on, but we'll be happy to gather as much as information you want to pass on the chat window. Please write questions as and when you feel something is important. We may try and pick up something then and there if I guess through the chat window. If not, we'll try and cover all the questions at the end of the session, maybe by 2:45. I think that's a time cap that we have kept in the entire discussion. Um, in that, there's something else stored for you as well. So I have also requested Shilpa for all the best 5 questions that Shilpa will like, at the end of the session. The people who will actually ask this question will also get a reward of about 1,000 rupees of Amazon vouchers. Now that's in for you. So I don't want you to ask questions only for the reward. I'm sure we want to gain something out of your questions once you ask it. So we look forward to all your responses. So with that, Shilpa, we can begin our discussion. The first question I normally ask this to all the industry leaders. I think in past 5 years, you will acknowledge that we have seen the change of world. I can myself say the amount of learning I had in last 5 years that cannot equate the learning that we had in first 15 years. It's more than that. Because we have seen the COVID time, we have seen the year after that, we have seen the tech breakdown, we have seen the war situation across, and we have seen industries going haywire at times. What my question, and I'm sure people on the ground would also want to understand, that what's the future of engineering as an industry in India? What you've seen in last 2, 3 years, and what changes happen in this industry, and what you envisage will happen in next 2, 3 years in the segment that you are in.
Thank you, Vishal. So, firstly, I think we will still remain a country which is the backbone when it comes to technology and engineering. So, this is just going to strengthen more and more. It's not, going to fade off, or it's not going to ensure that it's vanishing or anything like that. Uh, we are at a time or elm of things when the country is reforming, the country's outlook has been changing globally as well, and that just gives us a lot of opportunity where a lot of work is not just going to come to us in India. And like you said, post the COVID situation or the war situation where we have had, countries worldwide have realized that dependency on one country does not really help, and which is why you see a lot of work that's coming towards India. And that only means that the kind of infrastructure investments that are happening, the kind of organizations that want to step into India, and also not to forget that India is a very booming market for startups, right? Where and all this comes because of the knowledge and the engineering and tech background that we have. We are a very resilient country, and that kind of reflects in the situation that we've been through, and how we've actually come out with flying colors as well. So, engineering and technology is going to be the core epicenter of the growth. I think all of us in manufacturing or anywhere are just going to hover around it and see how best we can make out of it.
Wonderful. And I think, as you mentioned, Shilpa, what we hear in news, with India strongly focused on manufacturing setup and investing a lot in engineering organization, I think that's a true replica and information of things going well for India. I echo the same feeling that whatever we've seen in the last 3 years is just like a tip of the iceberg. I think a lot is stored in next 2, 3 years that will happen.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to more insights as we move forward. Now, given that, engineering, obviously, as you mentioned, will grow as a sector in that line. How has been the time for thyssenkrupp? Can you also give a light as to what has happened in the last 2, 3 years in terms of overall as an organization, and how that is going to change in India, let's say, for thyssenkrupp as a brand?
So, if I have to say in one word, how has the journey been from a business standpoint, I'll say marvelous. All right.
Mhm.
The reason is we've just doubled or tripled our revenues over the last 2 to 3 years, including amidst the COVID times, and this is just a reflection of the collective efforts the team has put. I have to, acknowledge and mention this because it's the team, it's the people who have made that happen. Saying that, what we're also seeing is a similar kind of a growth trajectory for the next 3 to 5 years for thyssenkrupp, which means to say, as we see the government is also investing heavily on infrastructure, we see even the private sector investing heavily, in expanding their manufacturing operations and capacities. We see that reflection in our order books as well, which means to say that more the infrastructure growth, more business for an industrial solutions company like us, right? That puts a lot of challenge in front of us, which is retaining good talent. I will start with retention because I truly believe that retention is the new hiring. That's the way. I mean, great resignation can be around, but if you try and retain and develop people, that's going to be very, very important and key. uh, Nevertheless, I think it's also a great opportunity for us to influx young engineering talent into the organization, and people who have also worked in diverse sectors and industries. This is also another aspect that we have been contemplating or thinking. We do need prior experience in our industry. That's crucial. At least some knowledge is important, but we're not shying away to bring in people from different similar industrial solutions group, let me say that. For example, we could even think of people in renewable energy and entering our energy business, right? Which is a waste heat recovery kind of a product that we work in. It just gives us a different perspective. and also to kind of start envisioning a future which is much more sustainable. So that's something that I could share from my side with you.
Super. Thank you, Shilpa. Now, given that, Shilpa, as we conclude now that we see the sector growing, and I think equitably we see thyssenkrupp also growing down the line. One interesting fact that we also noticed that because we are one of the sole proprietor of India Skill Report that we publish every year. Now, in that segment, there's a very important element that we all always capture for our audience at the ground, that what are the skill combination that is changing, possibly from an employer standpoint, that they look for a prospect and in the candidate down the line. We saw that every year there's a combination changing, from X to Y, it changes from A to D, and something like that. Can you also share that, is there any other new skill that is emerging, within your segment that you want the audience should be prepared for, and they just start upskilling themselves on that line? And some of the areas, some of the skills that you believe will obsolete in next 2 3 years of time, I think audience can possibly take them off and move forward beyond that.
Obsolete, I I would not use the word obsolete. I will say probably evolve over
Mhm.
a couple of years. I mean, in future. But if I see what are the skills, that would still attract organizations like us to hire, um, core, mechanical, electrical. This is not going out, right?
Mhm.
You can have mechatronics, you can have digital stuff, everything happening, but this is the sole core of any engineering organization. It's
Mhm.
like getting basics right.
Yeah.
I think what add on people can do while they're probably pursuing their education is to venture into areas such as analytics, digital solutions, understanding how the IoT works. Now, these are things that are really required by organizations like us, but we prefer to get them in combination. They can't be either or,
Mhm.
because knowledge into having both these areas kind of helps organizations like us, Vishal, because imagine you are commissioning a cement plant,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Someone who does not have a good background of chemical engineering as their core would probably really not understand how this product mix really works and how it will impact with the air available, etc., right?
Mhm.
Very technical stuff, but it is important that one cannot forget the core, but
Correct.
add on skills which kind of complement and help them grow in the
Mhm.
organization. Because you could be problem solving digital concerns in future for the client, but that will have to be data based, that will have to be data driven decisions that you will make design changes, or anything that's not working for the client. Which
Mhm.
is why I said I think it's not just one skill or the other. It'll have to be a combination of core skills and the newer trends that's coming up with all the digitalization. I would probably emphasize people to also look at ESG. It
Mhm.
is very, very important. It's not just to talk about, but it's to kind of have that in the mindset where even though you're young engineer professional getting into any engineering organization or an organization like ours, start thinking of how you can make more sustainable products which positively impact the environment. The avenues in India is few because as a country we've taken 2050 as a target, but it's still I think it's a journey, and unless and until everyone contributes to that, it's not going to change. So I will say that digitalization, business analytics, and I'll say ESG or energy solutions is going to be very, very important in the new future as well.
Super. And I'm sure people at the audience, they are making notes to all this information. So just like a house mouse information that Shilpa is giving us to be ready for. On the same line, Shilpa, except the domain that you just mentioned, I'm sure audience will look towards that and possibly work on the same line. On the softer skills, right? I've also seen when I talk to many leaders, every leader has a different perspective of what skill combination works well for my organization, it bases the value that I carry in the company. Now, per you, if let's say if I'm an aspirant, I look forward to join thyssenkrupp and all the audience amongst me. What are those soft skills combinations that you feel can be prioritized and people can possibly pay attention to?
Okay. I'll probably start with, a values alignment, Vishal, first. I mean, I'll not go to the skill per se, but I'll go to the characteristics first. Values alignment is very, very important. Doing what is right even when somebody's not seeing, right?
Mhm.
Voicing out stuff which you feel is inappropriate, is not correct, is not the right thing for the organization is important. So we need to inculcate these behaviors very early in our life. And our culture gives us a wonderful platform because that's how we're nurtured, in our homes. And I think
Yeah.
we just need to enhance that during our education, time that we have. Coming to the softer skills, I'll tell you what we look for and what we find them missing.
Mhm.
Uh, Culturally, because we are, English is a first language. Communication is something that, a lot of schools, colleges pay attention. But what generally happens is it doesn't transform into business communications. I think there is a difference between both, and one needs to acknowledge of knowing how to communicate in a corporate environment or a situation. Said that, the next important thing is interpersonal skills, which is, you need to collaborate with people. It's not a one man army or a one woman army that's going to work. You
Mhm.
have to learn to be collaborative, to work with each other, uh, have a learning mindset, which is very, very important because if you're not a learner for life, I think that's the end of your, you know, designation wherever level you are. I mean, you have to keep learning. Uh, so that's the third aspect that we will look forward for. The fourth one is probably resilience. The the industry is pretty stable. The heavy engineering industry is pretty stable. We don't create people strategies or business strategies that just are going to serve today or the next 18 months. We look for a lot of stability, and they're generally 3 to 5 years, right? While yes, we do revisit them every year to see if we're on track or we need to make slight more changes, but it's generally very stable and very long term. With that comes resilience, which means to say you need to have patience and resilience to face the hard situations our industry operates in. uh, I mean, believe me, most of the heavy engineering organizations, I mean, all of us know, just see on the urban side, how many of cement mining plants would you find? They are generally in remote locations. And we need um, excellent top talent to be available to ensure that these solutions that we are providing to our clients who are investing in the future of this country are we can have people in those remote locations because that's a bigger challenge. People do not want to travel to these remote locations.
Yeah.
So resilience and having a stability mindset is very, very important, Vishal. Last but not the least, I do believe that people are humans. Okay,
Mhm.
they tend to make mistakes, but it's okay. I think they should have the humility to say that I messed up, but I'd like to course correct. Right. So humility is very, very important. You can keep growing as much as you want, but if you're not humble, then I think it's a difficult job in the corporate side.
Correct. And as I say, Shilpa, just for the audience, I think it's easy to be expert on domain. You can possibly do that. But I think it's very difficult to be good at all the software aspects because that's build the character of an individual. So my request is for the audience, as you heard from Shilpa, I think every hiring manager pays a very important element when the evaluation process starts on the software skills element beyond domain, because domain many times is supposed to be given, that you are supposed to be graduate, you're supposed to be a BTech or something, but others are being developed. I think that's what being engaged in the process itself. Now, Shilpa, before I jump on to the next question, that's very interesting element that I normally know my audience will want to know. I want to share a very cool story with everyone and possibly with you as well. It is just about me. So when I started my first job, my first experience of any interview process. So my first job was American Express, and I went through first interview process. The process started at about early morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know if you remember those days. It's a BPO consulting kind of environment. They used to take many rounds, about 10, 11, 15 kind of rounds. I don't know what that process was. Now, and because I was slightly naive, I didn't go through the entire JD and everything. I just appeared for an interview. That's how I was very overconfident about. So the day started about 7, and it was about 6 in the evening. And I was sitting there, being through many rounds of interviews, and I was slightly frustrated in terms of what's happening. So the recruiter who actually called me for the interview just passing through. And I sarcastically asked this question to the recruiter that, am I being interviewed for a CEO role? And because I was sarcastic, recruiter was also very smart. And I thank for that recruiter to be that smart. Recruiter actually stopped and smiled. And she was the lady, right? She said, no, sir, I'm very sorry if you misinterpret the information. We're actually evaluating you for the Prime Minister of the India role. And that's how that's how the situation was. I got the message exactly that you can't be over smart in thinking situation. But the message that finally came out, Shilpa, that we see in this entire process, many times our processes are either very long, or possibly our candidates do not even understand what is being evaluated in what rounds of the process. Now, on behalf of our candidates, I really want to ask this question to you, that what is the interview process for thyssenkrupp, in case, let's say, I want to apply, and what differentiates one round to another round? If you can just shed some light on that to our audience.
Thank you. I can, when you were telling me stories, I could just kind of reflect back on all the interviews that I've had. But probably the simplest one was at thyssenkrupp. I should be very frank and open with everyone. Uh, I We maximum have 3 rounds of conversations, Vishal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 3 is insufficient, or there are organizations who have 8, 10. There's a decision making round in certain organizations. All that's good. I mean, they have various philosophies which back that, right? For us, it's very simple. I think the 3 people who meet, and many a times these 3 people meet together as a panel, and that kind of simplifies everything.
Yeah, agree.
Sorry, I
And
think I just saw a blank, and that's the reason I just paused. Okay. So yes, we have a very simplified process. There's about just 3 people, who have a conversation. Except for in our campus hiring, we do have an evaluation process that gets involved. And thereafter, there's a direct interview process, and that gets finalized. But in the 3, mostly 2 are business and 1 is HR. Otherwise, in many situations, we like and we really appreciate that business makes decisions on talent here. And that's how it needs to be, because managers need to own talent. And even in the hiring processes, we kind of emphasize that from our end. Of course, all the HR related components are discussed by the recruiting or the HR team itself. It's not it's not anybody else. But the other portion of evaluating the technical capabilities, understanding how good they would be able to do for themselves as a career at this group, all this is evaluated in the 3 rounds that we have. And it's like I said, it's very pretty simple and straightforward. We don't have multiple rounds to make it more. Um, I wouldn't say overburdening, but I don't think so. We want to drag it. How much would you make out if you do 8 hours with one person versus 3 hours with one person? If the individual is good or not, is able to hold your attention, is able to articulate what skills they bring on table, is known max to max in 2 conversations. The third one is just to probably check their resilience. Truly, if they really stick to their, you know, points that they have mentioned. That's the reason. Just we have a very simple process. We don't complicate stuff.
yeah, and I'm sure audience will be very happy, and some of them are now looking to actually apply immediately. I can vouch for that.
Please
Uh,
do.
yeah, with that, Shilpa, I also want to break some of the myth on this interview process. And in one of the forum, some of the candidates asked very interesting questions, and I want to just allude to same, and I want audience to hear that from you as to about your opinion. So I was in one of the campus, where I was leading the entire group, and some of the very interesting questions that came out. One of the question that somebody asked, that what is more important, the experiential learning or the conceptual learning? Now, when I elaborated on that, I think what the candidate wanted to ask was that, is it important for me to go through, let's say, 10, 20 different certifications, which is very upcoming new age nowadays? I think you see on LinkedIn, on socials, people actually do so many certifications. They actually brag about it and put down in the CV, right? So the question was whether hiring manager actually look for all these certification in a profile, or somebody is looking for an experiential learning while a dialogue happen in an interview.
I think it's a combination answer. I'll kind of explain why. If it's a technical skill, Vishal, for example, if it's a BOP certification that we need for certain jobs of ours, we need that, right?
Mhm.
And that comes with a particular classroom-based learning itself. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, just flip this aside to something, for as simple as uh, team management. Okay, people take a certification and say team management. I'm like, handle a team, have those difficult conversations with people, and then understand what goes into it. Training can give you cues and
Mhm.
how to have a conversation. But ultimately, it's you who is going to have those conversations with your employee as a team manager. Okay. So there is a difference. It has to be a combination of what you learn and how you apply on the job. Training can only teach you, which way to go. I think experience will tell you how to utilize that and execute that on your job. uh, Simple thing, giving feedback is the most difficult job any manager finds across industry, and this is I mean, all of us know. I'm sure you've also experienced that. If you
Mhm.
have to give a very tough feedback, generally, we're just trying to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
No, you
Correct.
did good, but this happened. You did good here, but this happened. Just get straight to the point and say where you messed up. I think you will do a favor to the individual who's probably
Yeah.
listening to you, saying, okay, thanks for getting to the point, and now I will see how to correct it. It could feel bad for the moment for the individual who's hearing, but believe me, they will bless you a couple of weeks or months down the line, saying, thank God he was frank to me to tell me what to do or what not to do. Similarly, I would kind of interconnect that certifications are key, but don't blindly do them. And
Mhm.
when I say this blindly, because I recently was doing campus hiring, and I asked for CVs that had come, and this was for management CVs. And I saw one candidate who had done close to 8 9 certifications back to back in various difficult topics, including project management and Six Sigma. And I was like, Six Sigma, you did a certification. How did you apply it? Right?
Mhm.
Did you apply? And then, no, I didn't apply. It was just a Six Sigma certification. I said, you said you certified Six Sigma, right? Don't just go behind the fancy certification that comes. Ensure that if you're picking up a certification, that you will be able to apply it immediately and learn and retain that knowledge. Otherwise, it's of no good to just having the certificate, because somebody tomorrow questions you, you will have a blank face, and then you don't know what to do, right? That is
Yeah.
a bad situation to be in. So I would say, think, thread carefully.
No, I agree. I think learning, application of learning is as important as learning itself. So I think we should be conscious of both at the same time. Great. So I'm going to come to a very interesting point, which audience would be waiting for. So what happens, Shilpa? Let's say if I join the organization, how am I supposed to grow? What's the career progression? Inside the company, you can possibly highlight the process, the way it happens, and would be happy to hear some of the success stories. What different things people would have done inside they have grown significantly, which our audience can take back and do something on that.
Okay, I'll give you, there are many examples, truly, Vishal, but our head of automation is someone who joined as a GET and today is heading the automation and digitization business.
Wow.
That's one example that I can quote. I have a business leader who joined in initially in project management, and today is our head of cement business, right? Moved across. So I think moving jobs within TK happens, is celebrated, if I have to say. At one point in time, we did have challenges, and I have to acknowledge that. But over a period, I think we have overcome that entire situation, and we now celebrate people movement within the organization. And not just that, but I would also probably say that we've started investing a lot in terms of grooming talent. So it could be developing the next generation of managers and supervisors through our I-Lead program. It could be developing women leaders and doing micro courses for all of them to go through. And it's a self paced learning that they could do. It could also mean that people in our industry, historically, I think communication has been a challenge. So we partnered with Toastmasters to come up with speechcraft programs for them. So I think there are various avenues where we try and help them to become better for the next role. What we do, is also do a potential assessment of employees, which kind of helps us to understand at what pace this employee will be able to grow and how quickly do we want to groom them as well. So that's another aspect that we've been doing. uh, it kind of also opens up conversations for us on succession plan, because we try and see if we can map at least two people to a particular role. And that's very very strongly started pushed last year onwards, because when this whole great resignation started and we said that let's make retention as the new hiring strategy, we said that we need people to move within the organization and grow, and that's the reason we started pushing that agenda very very strongly. So it should be like, you're not kidding on succession planning. Okay, it's not
Mhm.
just on paper. Let's start bringing it to reality as well. So that's something that we have started investing. We've also been wanting to kind of carve out a particular path for people who don't want to be on the managerial side and who only want to be on the technical side or be subject matter experts. And that's absolutely possible, because that career line is way way different within the organization. They will still keep growing on the technical side, but maybe don't want to be managing large groups as well. So we try to ensure that we provide both these tracks for growth for our employees within TK.
That's great. I think we have so many opportunities inside itself. So, Shilpa, another question I'm sure people will would want to know about that. Is there a minimum time threshold that, for example, if I join the company, I need to spend this much of time in the current role, then only I can apply or do a horizontal movement or a vertical
Yes.
movement? Is that something there in the company, and how? What is that timeline?
Our sector works anywhere between 3 to 4 years, Vishal, because by the
Okay.
time you actually contribute to the role that you're doing, or a project that's getting completed or in a particular segment, and unless you've done those two projects and get your hands-on exposure or experience on that, for you to take on something more bigger becomes a challenge. And we look at anywhere between 3 to 4. I know the industry operates between 2 to 3, but we
Mhm.
make it 3 to 4. However, we ensure that they're able to get onto stretch assignments or do maybe a cohort program during that time, so that the growth timeline is not getting hampered, right,
Mhm.
in that 3 to 4 years. So yeah, 3 to 4 years is what we try and maintain.
Great. Now the another segment, Shilpa. A lot of our audience are diversity audience, and I know that many companies, rather almost every company, has a diversity agenda attached to it. Uh, but I don't see a lot many diversity initiatives being done across many other organizations, or possibly audience is not even aware of what's being done. I also want to utilize this forum where you can possibly help us understand how do you welcome diversity in thyssenkrupp, and what all are being done inside, so that somebody who's there who can be inclined to that opportunity and make a call right away.
Okay, so the way we've looked at diversity is not just gender. I think we bet a lot on regional representation, and we bet a lot on the generation as well, the generation mix that we want to have in the organization. So
Mhm.
these are three things. So it's one side gender, the other is definitely the age in the region. We're equally concentrating on all the three, Vishal. Heavy
Yeah.
engineering industry does not attract many women.
Okay.
Precisely like I quoted before as well, our sites are in remote locations. And unless you're stationed there to execute a project, commissioning these large material handling equipments, or the cement plants that are getting commissioned there, uh, we have a lot of women engineers backing these projects from corporate. But at site, very few, hardly any, I would actually also say. but we have started looking at what can we make it possible for also women to contribute when there is a site commissioning happening. Can we have more women employees on the QA side, from a quality perspective? So these are avenues we are already trying to attract women to join the organization. On the region side, we are weak on the northern and the southern region, to be very frank with you, and that's where we need to really strengthen the regional mix that we want to have. Such a diverse country, we need to have people working equally from every region for us. I think that just helps people to become much more Indian than a particular state that they represent, if I have to say. And I think from the generations, what we're really looking forward to is, by kind of bringing in a lot of campus hires, we're trying to bring in a generation that kind of helps the Gen Ys, unlearn, and Gen Zs unlearn something and learn something new. So it could all be possible that there's a lot of reverse mentoring happening because of this new generation. And I think the younger generation probably can learn with the experience that the erstwhile members have here as well. Because believe me, I sometimes get very amazed. I come from a typical consulting automotive industry, and when I saw the kind of structures and large plant solutions our team makes, I was so proud. I felt so proud, and I wish that more and more women employees actually come to this side of the heavy engineering organization and see that, oh my, you seem too tiny in front of one big structure that's probably built, but it's an amazing experience.
Super. I think Shilpa, leaders like you in a manufacturing space make us proud, and I think that's what we wish for all our diversity folks who are there in the session and at large at India for sure. I was looking at the time, and I'm looking at the chat window as well. I think it's the first time possibly that we have actually captured all the questions that people have in our discussions. Thankfully, it's the same group. One of the interesting questions, I want to take this up before I ask the other question, Shilpa, to you. It says, what are thyssenkrupp's future plans in India, like business development and installation of new projects? So
I just
I'm
said,
sure you can't share the confidential information. In case you can just,
okay,
possibly give a snippet of what percentage growth we can anticipate to happen in thyssenkrupp in next, let's say, 1 to 2 years.
Vishal, I mentioned to you in the last 3 years, we have grown 2x, 3x, right?
Mhm,
That's the same pace my business leaders will work. They will
mhm,
not stop. And believe me, I think we enabling functions like finance, HR, IT, whoever it is, we better buck up, because these guys will run at a throttle like 3x, 4x to, make the
mhm,
business grow. So the plans in India is big. When I say is
mhm,
big, that I remember Vivek, our MD, quoting, we want to be 10,000 crores by a particular year. And we really wish that will happen now. And I think we are in the right direction of, being there as well. Said that, we are also very cognizant that in this entire process of growth, we want to transform our organization from just merely providing engineering and technology solutions to providing sustainable, reliable, and digital solutions to our clients. So we will couple this together, and that makes the product value proposition, I think, one can imagine, German
mhm,
technology plus all the value adds that can come with it. What we're also betting a lot on is, in terms of our service capability.
mhm.
uh, we know our products well. We know the product of any other organization in a similar product line even better. So we are there also to ensure that the services business is getting its right positioning as well. So that's another area where we see our business growing and multiplying, in the years ahead.
Awesome.
we have
Uh,
we have we have plans.
Awesome. And I'm sure, the person who asked the question got the response there. The other very interesting topic, I didn't include this in my question list, Shilpa, that I plan to ask. But I think this is what's there across. We have seen disruption through AI, almost in every industry, and chat GPTs is like a blessing in disguise to the kind of industry right now. How is that impacting the engineering business and, let's say, a thyssenkrupp in terms of efficiency or the business gains?
So, Vishal, again, I go back. Our digital and automation team works round the clock to ensure that we are, bundling value-added, digital solutions with our products. This is to only ensure that the better data and information that you have about the product, its condition, its working, you're able to probably provide solutions more proactively. You are not reacting to situations. You're making the customer more successful and their downtime less, right? So this is something that we are always working on. I wouldn't say that this is not something that we're not doing, but AI is slightly early. But I think the data that comes out of the entire digital solutions is going to be our foundation to ensure that the AI, the intelligence, is utilized at the best form in future.
Great. And I think this brings to our last, to me at least, to the last question, Shilpa. This is on people and culture, Shilpa. At least, what excited me the most, and I'm sure audience will also resonate that what are the engagement practices that happen inside the organization? Many time I think organization only see like a machine working for them, in that line. And many companies who succeed far ahead of others, I think they severely differentiate themselves in terms of engagement practices. So if you can throw some light as to what are the engagement activities with thyssenkrupp and how does that happen to engage people on the ground?
First and foremost thing, engagement is not driven by HR. I
Agree
will
with
tell
that.
you that that's different. That's different about this group.
Yeah.
Generally, people perceive that it is HR which is driving the entire engagement and everything. Absolutely, we are probably partnering or rowing the boat along with business, and every business leader of ours is so equally involved in ensuring that the employees are engaged. And they start with basics, Vishal. An employee is engaged when they have meaningful work and they have something to learn, grow, and a good boss to deal with.
Yeah.
All right. And this is
Mhm.
where it begins. The rest are all frills. The rest are absolutely all frills. So I'm extremely happy that, unlike many of the organizations I've seen, it is the managers here who hold everything at the helm of things and try to ensure that they're keeping every employee engaged, happy, and ensuring that they're able to get their best out of those employees as well. So this is for me engagement, and it's the next level, which is why uh, you know for many years we've never had the kind of attrition that majority of our industries used to see. Even in comparison with the counterparts, we don't operate at a similar attrition rate. Ours is slightly lesser. I wouldn't say it's way less, it's slightly lesser. And it's all because of the engagement and involvement of my business folks. And I think that's the best recipe one organization can have.
Wonderful, Shilpa. And as I said, I think this brings us to the end of the show. I'm really thankful for all the insights, Shilpa, that you've given. I'm very dead sure that all this information couldn't have come out even for a 2 hours, 3 hour session. Whatever we were able to gather through in about 45 minutes. For all the audience, I also want to thank you for joining in and chiming in for the discussion. For all other initiatives and the activity, you can keep engaged. There's a link and the email ID mentioned, in your chat window, which is careerscircle.live. For all the aspirants, with all the information that you've gathered so far about thyssenkrupp, I'm sure this excites you enough. So we request you to please apply and look forward to join us as soon as possible. So thank you, Shilpa, again. Thank you, all the audience. I look forward to host you in our next session, which may be for a different topic altogether. Take care,
Thank you
Shilpa.
so
Thank
much,
you,
Vishal.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
Bye.